Welcome to the Tech Insider, where we talk to the people who can give you the insights and trends that matter to you in your business. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems.
I am thrilled to have Joe Romano from Langan on the program with us today. Joe, Langan is a global company. You have both surveying and engineering. Of course, you run the surveying department. I'm curious what you've been involved with lately. Have you been involved with any really interesting projects?
Yeah, so welcome and thank you for having me today. Um, we are international and US based firm. And let me see what's interesting. A lot of stuff are centered around our new acquisition for our mobile mapping team. Traditional surveying wise, some very interesting projects at NASA and others around the world. You know, your typical warehouse, a lot of solar projects, and a lot of, we were doing a lot of oil and gas, that kind of slowed down, but a lot of interesting deployment of technology centered around renewables and a lot of airport and transportation work is coming our way lately too.
Okay, very cool. Never a dull moment. It sounds like you've been involved in surveying for quite some time. And I am
Okay.
curious if
Does that mean
if
I'm
there's
old?
ever okay. I'm curious if there's ever been a point in your career, maybe early on, maybe midway through, when you encountered a situation that made you second guess your career choice.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. I would say no. I've from the moment I started out doing other things inside of Langan, civil and some geotech, and I really fell in love with surveying centered around technology. That's what really got me got my thoughts going, and how we could leverage technology to be a differentiator for the firm. That's really what I like. I really like diving into newer technologies, stuff that's disruptive, maybe stuff that's just changing and enhanced older technology. But I really like that part of what I've done in the profession and in the marketplace.
All right. Well, if there is one word or phrase that you could choose to define your professional journey, what would that be?
Open-minded, I think. I think open-minded and being inquisitive. I've always, and again, maybe that's centered around technology, but I've always tried to understand or be on the lookout and for newer disruptive technologies, as I mentioned earlier. But not only about the technology, but how do you deploy it inside a large engineering or a survey firm? How can you take something that everybody's using one way and maybe use it as a different way? Um, and the other part of that is, you know, there's this whole technology curve. I think it's in for me in my career, I've always tried to be an early innovator and not an adapter or a follower. I always felt that if you can leverage those technologies or that mindset earlier on, you can capture larger of the audience before any of those things become a commodity. So I think
That makes sense.
open-eyed uh, and inquisitive have been key factors in what I do.
No, and I have to agree. I've been following your career for quite some time, and you've been great about just being innovative and embracing new ways of doing things. Now, Langan is also a Leica user. You've been using Leica Geosystems technology for a really long time. You actually, I believe, view the relationship as more of a partnership. You're not just using the technology, but you really are partners with Leica Geosystems. Tell me a little bit about that journey and why you rely on Leica.
So just like the journey in my career with the earlier question, you know, it's not only about being wide-eyed and inquisitive. You have to surround yourself with really smart and driven people. And that's what I've done with my staff and our partners inside of Langan. And we truly believe that that has to happen external to Langan, right? It's definitely a differentiator. It's something, relationships with your vendors, and specifically our relationship with Leica has been a game changer. I think we don't see Leica and the staff as a vendor. We see them as a true partner, and it's definitely changed what we do, to have input and have the relationships we have that are internal to Leica, and the uh, the ability to talk to the people that work in the software and are making the next versions of the software and hardware is invaluable. Again, it goes back to that idea of being an innovator as opposed to a follower. And we think that's a game changer for Langan, and my staff, all our staff, all believe that. Those relationships are invaluable to us.
Well, and it's very valuable to Leica too. I know that we rely on getting feedback from organizations such as Langan to make sure that our technology actually serves its purpose and serves it well.
Yeah, I can't. Um, I I said I like to look at new technologies, but when people try to create a technology or a new piece of equipment and it's a bunch of people sitting in a corner programming something that has no use in the real world, it's just a waste of resources again. And the ability to talk to people and plan out new workflows and new strategies, is again, it's immeasurable. And technology has played such a role in what we do. It's, while many people see it as a double-sided sword, you could replace a person with a piece of technology. I think you have to, those people have to evolve, and that ever evolving story over my career period, my career has been very interesting, right? Starting out with, early days of GPS, no one knew that surveyors would ever be able to use it like we do, all the way to scanning and aerial LiDAR today. It's been that evolution that's kept me interested in this career.
Yeah, I bet you've seen quite a few changes over your career. I'm wondering if there was ever a situation where you really found value in having that partnership with Leica, and you were able to call on someone from the team, and they were able to really be that backup that you needed in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I could think of several of those, not just on, a piece of equipment is missing or something's not working right, but all the way to being a partner for us. And, sometimes when you have a client that is really trying to push the envelope of what you're trying to do, they want to hear from the vendors. We've had several of our clients on vendor calls. I could think of a very large remote monitoring project that we did, um, that we would have never gotten the client to understand the value of what we were attempting to do if they didn't actually speak to a few people at Leica. And that also goes to a very large mobile mapping project that we're in the middle of right now. The client was very particular and reached out to the Leica mobile mapping team to talk about how Leica felt about our capabilities and our knowledge and what we brought to the table. Um, so it's worked both ways for us, and again, it's been rewarding.
Well, it must give you a lot of confidence going into projects, knowing that you have a partner that has your back, right? Let's talk about mobile mapping for a minute. Langan has been involved in mobile mapping for quite some time, going back to the original Pegasus system from Leica, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that's an interesting, and I think that maybe helps define the relationship. Before Pegasus was even put out on the market, I had mentioned to people that Langan would never buy a mobile mapper if it was married to a truck and it wasn't transportable and didn't have all these things. And lo and behold, you guys came out and the team came out with Pegasus One. We jumped on board right away. We went to Pegasus 2. That was 10 years ago. And it's funny. Well, I guess it's kind of funny how people think those tools are geared towards one marketplace. And those, most people see Mobile Mapper as a roadway only tool, where we didn't envision it that way. We envision roadway mapping as being a secondary service. We figured out how to deploy it in our current workflow, so we would be able again to be an innovator before everybody else, and just didn't want to jump on the roadway bandwagon of mobile mapping. So we were successful in doing that. It had some bumps in the road, but again, nothing that the team of Leica and Langan were not able to overcome. And we used that Pegasus 2 for 10 years. And along that way, there was a lot of conversations of what could be improved. And I will say that everything that we envisioned the TRK to be was built into the system. So we went and purchased the TRK this year and not look back. It's again another game changer, we think.
That's a big deal. So now you have a TRK, which is the latest and greatest mobile mapping system. Tell me about that decision-making process. Obviously, you've been involved in mobile mapping for a while. You've seen the business growing. You saw the potential. But what was it that triggered you to go ahead and invest in the TRK as the next generation?
Let's see, where could we start? The size of the unit was a big factor. The mounting system, the way that it was able to be shipped is a big issue. Again, we use the mobile mapper all around the country, so we ship it around. It didn't have to ship a car around. It's smaller. It can go cheaper freight ways of shipping it, means of delivery, which is a game changer. The quality of the scanner is tremendous compared to others on the market and the Pegasus 2. One of the big game changers was the real-time RTK ability that no other system has. It allows us to put the point cloud very, very close to true elevation and true state plane coordinates, or in a true system without the need for control. Very close, closer than we would have envisioned. So that means we have less control needed. The interface, the user interface as it is today and as it's planned to be, is leaps and bounds over anything in the market. That relates to safety of the driver and the operator in the vehicle while they're collecting the data. They don't have to interface with the controls as they did in the past, which often means one less person. Sometimes we would go with 3 people. And in the future, it may be 1 person. The cameras, as I said, we were recently in an interview at a large DOT for an asset management project. And when we showed the test sample area that we did with the TRK, they were blown away. None of the other competitors or other people who bid on the project had that clean of a data set. And, clean data allows us to reduce the data at a higher level, right? If the data of a sign, let's say, or a wire or a pole or a stripe or a parking lot or a building, if that point cloud is noisy and blurry, it takes the operator longer to extract that data. So as in many things we do, it all starts with clean, accurate data. And we think the TRK was a game changer. We were not looking to spend all that money again, but we felt that the value added in all those things warranted the purchase.
Well, that is quite a long list. I wonder, now that you've been using the TRK for several months, you've used it on a number of projects already, it sounds like. What are you hearing from clients? Are they noticing the difference?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those services where we often don't turn over the point cloud. There is one client that takes that we work with regularly that can work with the point cloud themselves, which we like doing that, right? We're surveyors. We're about collecting the data. We have no problem with collecting the data, QA/QCing it, reducing it, and handing it off to somebody to do extraction. But I can tell you that our extraction team, our GIS team that uses the data, they're in love with it because the data is cleaner. Again, there's less assumptions they have to make when they're extracting a element or a feature out of that point cloud. We've also had a ton of success of adding aerial LiDAR to that data set, and along with terrestrial scanning. So between the three, that final point cloud, whether it's mobile mapping, add it with LiDAR data and or static or terrestrial scanning, that workflow's been shortened and improved tremendously.
So even if your clients aren't aware of the different technologies that you're using, they are getting a ton of value from the way that
Yeah.
Langan is applying the technology on their projects. Yeah, I was going to say, and you have the safety aspect too, which you mentioned briefly, but that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think people often overlook that aspect of it, right? In the past, we would put people. Actually, one of the reasons we purchased Pegasus One was safety issue and time. If you are surveying a large roadway, or if you're doing a private development and there's roadway improvements up and down the adjoining roads, often you're looking at lane closures. Safe, then you're hiring police to do the lane closure and a safety truck, and you may only be able to survey at night. So the ability to do any mobile mapping and keep people out of harm's way, whether it's a road, an airport, a runway, a railroad, a container yard, any of those areas where safety is an issue, it just makes it better for your staff.
Sure. And I would imagine that with mobile mapping, even going back, 8 years ago, you've been able to grow the business because you have the capability of mobile mapping. Do you see that continuing with the TRK with all of the advantages that it brings?
Yeah, one of the things we looked at when we purchased the new unit was how do we expand that? Often the clients don't see or get involved with what tools we use to collect the data, right? They either want a model, a CAD file, or a piece of paper. But we've been able to deploy those tools that we see best fit to get that deliverable. The clients that do have input into what type of equipment or what type of procedures or data acquisition tools we're going to use. When they see our workflow and they see how integrated all those tools are, um, it's a game changer. And those are the ones that see the value. Um, if somebody just wants a piece of paper, they're really not understanding the value of how you've collected the data. The one last thing about uh, the great thing about mobile mapping, or captures a moment in time like all scanning or LiDAR does, and the ability to go back into the data uh, without redeploying into at the site is very valuable. Along with, you had asked earlier, what are one of the improvements of the TRK, and it's the width of the scanning point cloud from the center line of a road. Let's say we get the the site distance that we were able to obtain from Pegasus 1 and Pegasus 2 to TRK is tenfold. So we're capturing a wider swath of point cloud, or a wider swath of physical features at the same time, and that helps us.
And does that help streamline the whole process then? Is that making it faster? What is the capability that that's bringing to your team?
Yes to both those. So because we're collecting more data um, on in a point cloud format, traditional surveying, you're walking around with a pole and you're relying on one point at a time. In the point cloud, we can extract what we want and not have to worry about what did the guy miss. Did he walk over a low point? Did he miss something because he was, distracted? Now we're capturing all that data, and again, related to safety and quality of the data, it's reduced in the office, and that adds to the safety aspect, some of the accuracy aspect, and a need for less return visits. So that adds value for us, and value to the client, because then he's not paying, or the client's not paying for return trips.
Sure. And it used to be that capturing all that data with mobile mapping led to some pretty significant bottlenecks in the office. But I think even that side of it's improved quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, before we would have to wait until we were done with our data acquisition to download and start processing Pegasus data. The TRK allows us to process that data while we're still collecting and doing the download. That's another time saver in the new system.
Well, and when you've got clients that need their deliverables yesterday, every minute counts, right?
Yeah, yeah, most people do. Oh, you're going out today. Tomorrow I'll get the plan. They forget about all that time in between.
Exactly, exactly. So you've been expanding your business with mobile mapping, but you're also looking at other ways to expand your business. And one of those is with GPR, ground penetrating radar, using the IDS Geo Radar Stream. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, that's another service that we thought we would always subcontract, and the stream was a game changer. Again, the way it operates, and the deliverables that come out of it, and some of the automated features of the office side of that are I keep saying game changer, but they're really innovative, right? It's not just a line; it's more of a point cloud and of an object. You really have to take the time to see the office side of how it works. The field side is pretty much the same as all GPR. You're walking around with a GPS receiver to track your location, and you're walking a site. But when you get that data in the office is where uh, the difference stands out. And some of the tools and processes that the Leica team put into that is why we looked at it, and why we're heading in that direction to provide that service in house.
So it sounds like Langan is in a position now to provide 3D mapping of any area, whether it's above ground or below ground. Is that where you're going?
That's where we're going, and part of the philosophy is to control as many of those steps or tasks in the total survey package that we can, right? The more we can control it, not that there's bad subs out there, but the more that we can control it, that adds value to our client. We don't have to wait. We can control schedule, quality, and allows us to have more skin in the overall project. So we like the idea of being able to control as many steps as possible.
Well, and I would think that's so important, especially for infrastructure projects where no one wants to wait on different pieces of the puzzle. They want everything to go as smoothly, as seamlessly as possible. And being able to source all of these services from one provider is very beneficial in that regard.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on the next level, or not the next level. It's not. It happens every day today, but the ability to create 3D object based infrastructure features like you would in above ground in a building, 3D pipe, a road, those 3D models that we can build from this combined data of TRK, traditional survey, aerial LiDAR, static, and now stream data, allows us to create as-built site condition models. I hate to say BIM because it's not about the building, it's about the whole project site, which is usually ground down. A lot more clients want to see that. They see the value of BIM in their ground up projects, and they want to see that in their ground down deliverables. So the ability to capture all that data, move it around quickly, view it quickly, QA, QC it, combine it, and then output it in a model is where the market's definitely been and is heading quicker than we can keep up with.
It certainly sounds like it. It's come a long way from the days of the 2D CAD drawings, right? I mean, when you
Yeah.
think about the deliverables you used to provide as a surveyor, and now what you're being asked to provide or what you know your capabilities are, it must be pretty impressive to you, having spent so much time in this field.
Yeah, you and I have had many conversations on the scan and BIM side, but to see that evolve into site information models, let's call them, and people embracing that is pretty rewarding. We've talked about that for a long time, and I think one of the things that does always concern me is people often become glassy-eyed with the deliverable or a technology. And we were talking earlier about the relationship, and I think it's important that we share the need that and the understanding that people do become glassy-eyed, but we want to make sure that the data behind that is validated, is correct, is the best data we can collect. You only go there once to collect the data, right? We want to collect it to the highest level we can while we're there. And
Well,
again,
and when
people,
you say glassy-eyed, what you're really talking about is that the visuals can look impressive, but if the data behind the scenes isn't solid, then that's a problem.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if I often talk about data overuse and misuse, and that's exactly where that comes from. You can't make it more accurate, no matter how many decimal places the computer spits out the number to. Um, it can only be as accurate as you first collect it, and the word solid is a good word. And that's important because once data, people say, well, I collected this piece of data for a specific use, but once you hand it off to somebody or you put it in a computer and you give access to other people, that specific use is gone out the window, and other people are going to use it for their use, and that leads to downstream issues that were or unconceived at the time the data was collected.
Sure. There's so much emphasis now on visualization and the kind of the glamour of the visuals, but we have to keep those foundational principles in place, right? With the quality of the data. It all goes back to the quality of the data. I'm curious, Joe, I know that you are a big proponent of trying to draw new professionals into the field of surveying. I know you've spent quite a bit of time reaching out to educational institutions and working with schools trying to draw new professionals into the career of surveying. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in surveying right now?
So thank you. Yeah, I do believe that you got to give back to the profession. And I do spend a lot of time in those nonprofits, and that's rewarding. Excuse me. That's been rewarding. I think if you're starting out in this profession today, you have to understand the the foundation of surveying, right? Not that you need to know um, how many pounds per square inch you need to pull a steel tape and how to calibrate a steel tape, but we're so much about pushing a button and getting a solution. We have You have to get a good education in the foundation of what the answer is when you push that button. Often that's forgotten about. And again, it goes back to that students get glassy eyed with some of the cool tools and technology we deploy. But they have to remember that those technologies are being used to get to an end. And I think if we can impress them early on with these cool tools and show them the history and the tradition of surveying, and show them that it's a good career. I mean, to me, if you have your PLS in many states today, you're writing your future. Um, the other thing is they have to be an advocate for the profession, and anybody that gets in any profession should be involved in it. It's not a job; it's a career, and I think if if you get students that are enthusiastic about their future, and you show them these cool technologies, give them that foundation of traditional surveying, they can almost write their own ticket.
What do you think is the best thing about being a surveyor? What do you love about it?
I love the people that I work with. I love the 45 years of relationships that I built with different vendors and my peers. But if you were take that away, the one thing I really like is that it's different from job to job, right? One day you're in the woods working on a couple 100-acre boundary in the woods, going back to deeds from the 1700s. And the next week you could be Cape Canaveral working on something for a SpaceX project. Or you can be out on a boat doing hydrographic mapping. I mean, not the change of environment is what I liked about surveying, and one of the things that made me gravitate towards it.
So much fun. And then you've got all the cool technologies on top of it too, right? What is one thing that you really want our listeners and viewers to know about Langan?
Wow. People often see the company for what they know us as, and we provide a lot of services. We started as a geotechnical firm. We're 53 years old this year, I believe. One of the very unique things about Langan is I kind of said it earlier. We believe that part of the process is part of the things that we offer is to control a lot of the land development process in-house. So if you know Langan as a site civil firm, we also do traffic. If you know us as a geotechnical firm, we also do surveying. If you know us as a survey firm, we also do landscape architecture and environmental and ESG and all these other services that we provide. I think that's educating people about what we do, about our history and the breadth that we have has been fun. And I hope people can see Langan for more than just what they know us as. Because I think we here at the family can bring a lot to a table and to a client's needs. It's all about controlling their expectations and understanding their end. Often the services that any consultant provides are many clients don't see them. They don't want to have to call somebody up to do a site plan, but if they want to build a building and put a key in the door and open that door and turn the lights on, it's part of the process. And we want to make that whole process enjoyable and rewarding. And we understand that. So I think to see us, if in ending that, I think to see Langan for more than what you know us as would be what I want people to understand.
Sure. And it sounds like that is something that both from the client perspective, they should be exploring, as well as from someone who's interested in maybe working for a really interesting company with a lot going on, a lot to
Yeah.
offer there. I'm curious, Joe, what are you reading or listening to these days? Do you have any recommendations for our audience in terms of either a book or a podcast or maybe a video series?
We're going to skip that because I hate reading. Actually, no. Let's talk. So, I like. I'm not a big TV freak. I like reading a lot of technical stuff about newer technologies, whether it's point clouds, whether it's modeling, whether it's drone, GIS. I like to dive into how a scanner works and not just believe the vendor. Sorry about that. But you could ask anybody on the Leica team. We're always trying to challenge you guys into explaining how something works. But for TV, I really enjoy those survival type of shows like Alone. I admire those type of people that can get out and really have the strength to live off the land. I think those shows are the type of ones I like.
Super fun. All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. I enjoy the conversations all the time.
Be sure to check out the description for additional resources on this topic. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like. If you'd like to see more of this content, be sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Tech Insider.